everyone, and welcome back to another episode of the Kate Hamilton Health Podcast. So today's episode is actually a part 2. I speak with Aisling Fox. We did a part 1 episode a few episodes back. I don't have the exact number in my head, but just scroll back. It's not that long ago. We had such a beneficial conversation that we just really wanted to go in more depth on a few topics. So that is what we do in this episode. Aisling is a nutritional therapist, herbalist, and founder of AOK Nutrition. If you haven't heard of her, go check her out. She is amazing. You will be after this episode anyway, and go back and listen to our episode, our part 1 as well. In this episode, we really zone in a lot more depth. And the main topics that we discuss are PCOS and endometriosis. We also then spend a little bit of time talking about herbal medicine and about what she actually does in her clinics and how she can help. But I think anyone who suffers with PCOS or endometriosis or has a daughter or a sister or, knows anyone in their life that struggles with either of these areas, this is going to be hugely beneficial. I have learned so much. It's also very, very proactive. So it's not like listing symptoms and, oh yeah, this is it and this is it. And, you need to just see your doctor or whatever. It's like, yes, like we talk about around the importance of that. Yes, medicine is important, that, medical attention is extremely important, but also there's a responsibility of lifestyle as well. And we talk about combining both and how important that is. I think you are really going to find this extremely helpful. So enjoy. Aisling, welcome back.
Thank you for having me. I'm so delighted to be invited back on. Like, lovely compliment. So excited to chat again today. We could have chatted for hours last time, so I think we definitely needed a part 2.
That's what it was. It was like we were hitting the hour and it was like, no, we definitely will talk for another hour if we go into these topics. And I was kind of doing a little bit of looking back on our previous episode, and it was like, why did we really want this part 2? And it was to get a little bit more specific, I think, on different areas, because we did a lot. Anyone listening hasn't listened to our part 1, it's a few episodes back, scroll back and listen to our part 1 as well, where we talk a lot more generally around hormones and lifestyle and nutrition and everything that goes with that. Whereas we just wanted to zone in a little bit more on some different issues in this episode. So I thought we'd start with a little bit of PCOS, talk about PCOS. And I suppose, first of all, I think as women, like, people just expect us to know what it is. So whether it's something that you struggle with or not, you'll have heard of PCOS, but I'd say that there's plenty of people out who don't really know what that actually means.
Yeah, of course. There's women with PCOS who don't know what PCOS is. And that's not even our fault. It's just not explained to us. So PCOS stands for polycystic ovarian syndrome. And the key word there when we're talking about PCOS is that syndrome. So one thing I want to start off with straight away is PCOS is probably one of the most misdiagnosed conditions that I see in clinic, because just because you have cysts on the ovaries doesn't mean you have full-blown PCOS. So I've had clients who go in and get a scan, for example, and they see cysts. And to make it even more confusing, like, obviously women's health in itself is just like such a minefield. But these cysts that they see are actually just follicles. They're eggs that haven't been released because you're not ovulating regularly. That's normally the reason why. And this could be the case because you're not ovulating because you're stressed, because you have high testosterone, which is what PCOS, polycystic ovarian syndrome, is due to. Which we'll come back to in a second. It could be due to low iron. So I just want to kind of really make it clear straight away that just because you went for a scan and we're told, yeah, you've cysts, it doesn't mean you have PCOS straight away. You can have PCO, and PCO is polycystic ovaries. And this is a huge misconception that I would see. And it's so important because even like in the medical field, they'll say, oh, it's PCOS. And this woman goes by, say, if you're someone like, for example, who's under eating and really over exercising and really depleted and you've no cycle because of stress, it's called hypothalamic amenorrhea. And this woman goes away and starts researching and she's told cut carbs and increase workouts, and it's the polar opposite, the real PCOS protocol, which we're going to talk about now. So it's really, really important to PCOS you have the right diagnosis. That's the first thing I say. Okay, so PCOS, again, polycystic ovarian syndrome. And what that syndrome means is it's usually irregular cycles due to high androgens in the body. And testosterone is one we're all very familiar with. There's another one called DHEA, which is another type of androgen. And when these are elevated, it can stop your body from ovulating. And with this, you're going to see things like, obviously, irregular cycles. You might have acne. You might have excess hair growth. It could be on your face, on your chin, on your nipples, on your body. And you could have things like insulin resistance on a blood test. People find it really hard to lose weight. hair loss. So kind of they're the real classic symptoms of PCOS. And again, with these symptoms, what you're bringing is the syndrome. So you have a number of different things together at the same time. And it can be tricky. It's really hard to support it because it's all lifestyle. Like PCOS is due to lifestyle factors. So that can be very difficult for people sometimes because if you were putting the pill at 15 for irregular cycles and the root cause was PCOS, chances off are if it's due to kind of the typical insulin resistance and things like that, like those people are still struggling with their weight. They're still probably struggling with, I don't know, like maybe hair loss. And when they come off the birth control, if their lifestyle hasn't changed, those symptoms are still there as well. So PCOS is very much lifestyle related. Makes
Oh,
sense?
so yeah, so yeah, I would have been aware that lifestyle very much influences your experience of PCOS and how you manage it. Does lifestyle cause it?
Lifestyle is the cause of PCOS. Absolutely. Yeah.
Okay.
Now, there's kind of a caveat with that because what they find now is there is a genetic component with PCOS, like the same way diabetes would run in people's families, for example. And like if your uncle, even going through pregnancy, like my dad is type 2, like he's in his 70s. And just because he's diabetic, I had to go and do the insulin test. And even though I'm a nutritionist, I was like, it's not going to be high, like, this kind of thing. So with diabetes, we know it definitely is run in families. And PCOS now is kind of in that same kind of category. So generally, if you have diabetes in your family or if you have someone else in your family with PCOS, it does increase your risk factors. But the way it works is it's called like epigenetic. So it's like what the hand that you're dealt. Okay. So this is what you're dealt. And depending on how you live your life determines how that kind of how your health is presented us. So if you're someone who, for example, PCOS, for a lot of people now, there is different types of PCOS, I'll come back to in a second, but for the usual 70% of PCOS is due to high insulin levels driving high testosterone. And these are like an inverse relationship. High testosterone drives high insulin drives high testosterone. So when we're talking about insulin, this is linked with your diet. And I think, these days, a lot of processed foods, a lot of sugar in people's diets without even realizing it. Like even people, are trying to eat healthy, people are trying to have low calorie yogurts, but they're high in sugar, just little things like that. People are trying to make health decisions without realizing how much sugar is going into your diet. So really with PCOS, sugar is a huge driver. The other massive problem with PCOS is also it kind of links with inflammation in the body. And when we're talking about inflammation, that's going back to your gut health. Your immune system is most of your gut. So if your gut is not optimal, your body can't respond to that inflammation. And this can even drive PCOS further. So even just think about our lifestyle, like taking medication, drinking alcohol, eating processed foods, not eating enough fruit and veg. And this doesn't mean, you know what I mean? We have to find the balance between it. But when you zoom out and look at all these risk factors of what can drive PCOS, people really fall into that category very easily. Does that make
And
sense?
it's really normal stuff, isn't it? So like, even, it sounds very harsh when you say your lifestyle causes PCOS and like people might hear that and kind of take offense, be like, excuse me. But it is a lifestyle that most of us are living, like with having the few drinks here and there, having the sugary snacks and, living stressful lives, not eating enough to look after our gut health, enough fiber and, all the other bits. It also, I suppose, means that if it's the hand you're dealt with and it is genetic or whatever, like not everyone who lives their lifestyle like this, which is most people, are going to end up with PCOS. This is going to obviously make it worse if you are prone to it, I presume, yeah?
Yeah, and you'll hear people all the time say, "Oh God, I put on weight. Just look at a pizza and I put on weight, or I look at this and I put on weight." Like I think some people's metabolic makeup, or you're more prone to weight gain for certain reasons. And when you're looking at things like, do they have a history of PCOS? Do they have a history of diabetes? Oftentimes, it's genetics. Now, as you know, as I know, it is calories in versus calories out at the end of the day. But people just have to work that little bit harder to really maintain their weight and maintain their health. Oftentimes, this genetic component background can be the thing that's driving it. The interesting about PCOS as well, because I know there'll be people listening to like, I'm not overweight and I look after myself really, really well. So medically, like they look at PCOS, so they have high testosterone. Everyone is given the same protocol pretty much. Okay. So really interesting, like when we're talking about insulin resistance and things like that, the drug that's used for PCOS is called metformin. And metformin is the same drug they use for diabetics. So it's
Okay.
very interesting because I'm like, from a nutritional perspective, we're kind of like a real naturopathic. Like my goal is trying to get to the root of the problem. And if you fix the root, everything else will fix itself. That's how I run the clinic. That's how I run everything. And it's interesting that the medical approach of PCOS is kind of very naturopathic to a certain extent because they understand if you actually help control insulin levels through using a drug called metformin, testosterone levels will come down, ovulation will kick back in again. They're just doing it through drugs instead of doing it through diet. Does that make sense? So
Yeah.
it's very
Yeah.
that approach. But so medically, they're like, you've high testosterone, this is what's going on. And I remember when I trained years ago, we kind of went a little more depth in that. So we kind of say like there's four different types of PCOS. There's PCOS that's driven by high testosterone and kind of insulin resistance. So that's the one we're kind of talking about now, like diet and lifestyle, weight training is all the really important tips for that. There's PCOS, I would call post-pill PCOS, what I see so commonly in my clinic, probably because of how I'm working. People come off birth control. They've been on birth control for 10, 15 years, and particularly pills, things like Yasmin, Dinette, what's your Yasminel, the ones that are really high, we call them like androgen blockers. So technically what'll happen is you're going to the doctor at 15 because you've really got acne and you get put in these pills and they're fabulous for your skin. You're amazing and hair growth and your skin's brilliant. But when you come off it, you kind of get this androgen surge. So the amount of women that I've seen who come off the pill, they might have one or two periods and then all of a sudden their period disappears. And they go and get bloods done, their testosterone's through the roof, their ovulation hormones are out of whack as well, and they're told you have PCOS. And they're like, sure, this is random. Like, I know that I eat really well and I'm not overweight and I've never PCOS before and I've no family history of it. And we would call it post-pill PCOS. And it's kind of hard because it's one of these things you just have to ride the waves. Normally, the process is androgen surge for about 12 months post-pill. And then once you come to kind of 12-month mark, the finishing line is the fight, and then things kind of start to calm down. Now, I work with a lot of women to help support that high androgen levels through diet, through herbs, through everything else. But the same goes if you're listening and you're like, oh my God, my skin went mental like 6 months after coming off the pill. What happens is most women panic and they go back onto birth control, but you're going to have to do that kind of pattern again. It's these androgen surging. So post-pill PCOS is really, really common and it's very temporary. Then we have a type of PCOS kind of linked more with inflammation, like I was saying earlier on. And if I see clients with things like psoriasis or underactive thyroid that's linked with like autoimmune or celiac disease or any kind of inflammatory issues, often this inflammation can drive up a different type of androgen called DHEA. And DHEA is linked kind of more with like it's another type of androgen, but it's linked more with stress. So like you could literally be like, I'm brilliant with my diet and I'm eating really healthy and your androgens might still be elevated because your body's under stress through inflammation or just through lifestyle stress as well. So that's how we look at PCOS because like that sometimes people just don't fit the mold. And I'm sure it's people listening being like, I'm diagnosed with PCOS, it makes no sense. Like I'm really trying to look after myself. Take that further step back and be like, well, was it post pill? Do I have a lot of stress? Do I have a lot of inflammation? And it might be one of those things. And if it is those, you have to look at it from a different perspective. Like, for example, stress needs to be treated through looking at lifestyle, you know, nourishing supplements. It's completely different to kind of like putting on metformin or controlling insulin levels. That makes sense. So it's
Yeah.
quite complex. It's why we need a part two.
Yeah, no, we definitely needed a part two for this. If someone listening's at the stage they're like, look, I've been diagnosed with PCOS, or like I am struggling to get healthy with this, to lose weight, to get these healthy habits in place. What is it that we should do? Like, where should you start? I know, like you were going to say diet and lifestyle, but if what are the really specific things that are really important for women dealing with PCOS?
Yeah. So number one is blood sugar balancing. And what that means is we need to prevent how many times a day you are getting hungry. So if you find that you're starving every few hours, what's going to happen is, first of all, you're going to crave the carbs. It's really hard to make rational decisions when you're already hungry. So you're going to be looking for more rice or more chips, or you want the chicken fillet roll at lunchtime, or you want the wrap, or you want, I don't know, whatever it is, biscuits, you want chocolate bar, which is fine to have. But when you have PCOS, those things are going to drive up your insulin further. Like insulin is how your body lets sugar into your cells properly. It's not a bad thing. We need it. But when we are eating these foods either too much or when your metabolism can't process these sugars as well, you become a thing called insulin resistant. It's much more difficult for your body to process these foods. And this is when the problem starts. So what I mean by blood sugar balancing is don't let yourself get hungry. So try and eat little and often throughout the day. If that's what suits you. If you're someone being like, "Do you know what? I eat 3 meals a day and it suits me fine." Perfect. But if you're starving coming up to your lunch and you're standing in the kitchen making your lunch eating a biscuit, like you've gone too far. Okay.
Yeah, and Aisling, it's so common. I see this, like I work with hundreds of women and, that are struggling to lose weight, not necessarily PCOS related, but they're like, I can't stop snacking at night. And then when we look at their day, it's like you've gone all day without eating anything. It's like I don't even eat that much during the day. It's like, so even just our basic first steps of being, you need 3 meals a day at least.
Exactly. Yes. And what we're looking at those meals is protein. Protein is literally the most important component of PCOS, I would say, because protein helps to balance out those blood sugars. So to put a kind of the less kind of like scientific term is it stops you getting hungry. And all of a sudden, if you're not as hungry, it's much easier to control your cravings in terms of, and again, look, I'm all for like cup of tea and a bit of chocolate after dinner, right? So that's not what I'm saying. Don't have that. But the difference between having a cup of tea, your jammies on, relaxing in the evening times, and then standing there at lunchtime eating 4 biscuits while you're waiting for your soup to heat up. Like they're two completely different things. So it's kind of like that urge, I have to eat something quicker, not maybe to kind of control cravings that we're kind of looking at. When we eat protein as well, it helps control how quickly your blood sugars crash. It helps control your insulin levels. So it's by far one of the most like important things. A lot of my PCOS clients, even for example, feel better eating things like a higher protein breakfast. So, like, if you saw clients, porridge and berries and flax seeds, that's a great breakfast. It's brilliant for hormones. But for someone with PCOS, having something like a bowl of porridge in the morning, which is very high in carbs, even though they're good carbs, will spike your insulin levels. And then it's like you're on this roller coaster all day long. Whereas if you had something like a massive omelette, 3 egg omelet, throw a bit of feta in, throw a bit of bacon in, loads of veggies in there, that will keep you fuller for longer, right? My approach to PCOS as well, like I'm sure if you do Google PCOS, like it's very much like low carb diet, 20% carbs, it's very hardcore. Like, and if you came to me, Kate, and you were like, I want to get pregnant in the next 3 months and I have really high testosterone, I'd be like, okay, let's go on hardcore and try to reduce your carbs and get this down as quickly as possible. But for the majority of women, you're probably going to always struggle with PCOS. But going to be something you're always going to have to try and manage. So my approach is let's not go completely low carb and you're completely miserable. It's very much trying to just manage how much you're eating them. So, even just having, say, for example, smoothie in the morning with protein powder in it and loads of fruit and greens, and then having a big salad at lunchtime. And it's not even about cutting calories. Like I kind of say, if you're not having, say, if you're normally having a sandwich, right, a salad sandwich at lunchtime, instead of having the bread, which is a carb, have a big salad and throw in some avocado, throw in a boiled egg, throw in some nuts and seeds, throw in some olive oil, like fill up on healthy fats if you're getting rid of carbs. We don't want you hungry either. This is the thing, right?
It is about adding in, isn't it? Like this is our whole approach as well. Instead of focusing on, oh, I have to cut my carbs, it's like I have to eat more protein, I have to eat more healthy fats, and then naturally you'll eat less carbs because you're focusing on what you need to put in.
Yeah, and you're not hungry. This is a problem as well.
Yeah.
So people might think, oh God, but like that's going to be a 500-calorie lunch. I normally have, say, like I see clients eat like vegetable soup for 150 calories and 2 slices of bread. Right? Vegetable soup is a bowl of vegetables and a glass of water. That's not a meal, right?
Yeah.
That's not a meal. There's no protein in that. And you have your vegetable soup and your 2 slices of bread and it's 200 calories. And then like that afternoon, eat 5 biscuits because your blood sugars have crashed. So it's one of those things, it seems like you're eating more calories in a meal, but all of a sudden then you're not snacking around you. You're finished your dinner. You might have a bit of chocolate and a cup of tea, but it's not the same as you having 3 biscuits and a packet of crisps and a slice of toast and a bowl of cereal and like that kind of really intense sugar cravings because your blood sugars were imbalanced during the day. So it seems like you're eating more, which you are, but overall, I actually find people actually eat less calories in terms of snacking.
And it's funny, like, sorry to interrupt again. I know you're trying to get in the flow of this, but like a lot of like what you're saying in relation to this is literally what I would advise for everyone in relation to a sustainable way to lose weight, like, and to live a healthy lifestyle. So really it is implementing really what we all should be doing.
100%. Like if you ask me the number one most important thing for like feeling good, I'd like eat protein. And it's not even like me saying eat protein. It seems so very trendy. Like you walk in the supermarket and it's protein pasta and it's protein. It's ridiculous how
Yeah.
insane. And I don't mean go and buy protein, like processed protein shakes and protein bars and have to protein pasta. I just mean eat a source of protein with every meal. I always say think of Irish mammy dinners. Irish mammy dinners is the meat, chicken, the fish is the main part of the meal. And then you decide what you're going to put with it. Okay. So someone having vegetable soup, for example, if we go back to what that reflects as Irish family dinner, it would be a bowl of vegetables and a glass of water. That's not a meal, right? Where people having again porridge and bearings for breakfast, like eating carrots and potatoes. Slice of toast for breakfast, like eating literally a potato for your dinner. So I think that Irish family dinner analogy works pretty well because all of us, if you got brought up in Ireland, you know what I mean by it. So look at the protein source and say, right, this is my protein. What am I going to have with this? And when you start planning your meals like that, goes for every single person listening, you'll feel so much better because when your blood sugars crash, your stress hormones get released, your energy levels drop, your sugar cravings increase. People often have things like shaky, jittery, can't concentrate, might be a little bit moody, might get a headache. It's not a way. And then you're relying on sugar and caffeine and carbs normally to bring yourself back up. And then it's just a vicious cycle.
I noticed this particularly with myself when it comes to the weekend. Like, so, I'd be, particularly as it took me a long time over the years to really kind of get into a good, healthy routine, but that I would have that structure in place and that mindset in place, like Monday to Thursday, or yeah, even Sunday to Thursday and everything. But like Friday and Saturday, I would like I used to for a long time start my morning on a Saturday morning with like toast and raspberry jam and tea, like a cup of tea, toast and raspberry jam. And I loved, like, I really looked forward to it on a Saturday morning for a long time because I had like replaced that with, with a good protein shake in the morning that I made myself, obviously, and or, like a protein porridge or whatever. So I was like, Saturday morning, I'll have toast and jam. And when I tell you, the spiral that would happen on the Saturday, and I don't mean overly like binge eating, like not massively over calories, but that evening time snacking when you're sitting down and you're staying up later at the weekend as well. So you are more tempted to snack. Once I actually kind of recognized, and I really recognized that, I was like, it's my meals. I'm like, I have to, whether I have the extra snacks with my movie on a Saturday night, that's fine. But I have to keep my protein, carbs, and fats in the meals, and they can be funner meals. Like, but I was like, yeah, no, toast and jam can't be a meal. It can be a snack if I want, but it can't be a meal.
Or I find like we might do like boiled eggs and toast on a Saturday morning more time, and then we'll have like another slice of toast with a bit of jam afterwards. So you've already
Yeah,
had like boiled egg, you've already had your bit of protein. And I think like even cereal, like, us been brought up in the 90s. You're brought up watching cereal ads, you're brought up watching like characters in TV shows eating cereal for breakfast. Cereal is, think about cornflakes, right? Imagine your dinner was corn on the cob and a glass of milk. How ridiculous that is. It's not dinner.
yeah,
And yet we're having cornflakes for breakfast, which is meant to give us energy for the day, at least in the evening times we're home with the evening. And we're expected that a corn and a glass of milk is meant to sustain us for the day. Like no wonder then people are crashing an hour later and they're looking for
yeah,
croissant or little, I don't know, like sliced toast later on or coffee, or like it's not even people's fault because it's just lack of education around it. Like we just don't
yeah,
realize that. And even people eating porridge in the morning, which is a great, really nutritious. It's so good for you. I love oats as a hormone kind of supporting food, but it's just about carbs. It's all about, I would say, think of oats like a baked potato. It's like, what are you putting with that? Are we having flax seeds? Are we having
yeah,
chia seeds? Are we putting nut butter? Are we putting protein powder in? Are we putting, I don't know, dollop of yogurt in there? It's all about the toppings when it comes to something like porridge and even cereals.
yeah. No, I couldn't agree more. And the losing the run of ourselves when we're really busy. That's why, like, it's like, oh, I'm off track or whatever. But it's because you haven't been able to get the meals in, and then you can't control the snacking, and it's just, yeah, vicious cycle.
But at least people knew, like, if I'm stuck, if I'm like legging out the door and I'm starving, I'll let you grab a handful of cashew nuts, for example. That'll keep me going. Do you know what I mean? So cashew nuts, I let you eat 10 cashew nuts, and all of a sudden my blood sugar's going back up. I'm more steady. I'm not crashing again 20 minutes later. Do you know what I mean? So just understanding
Yeah,
like higher protein snacks, quick, easy things you can grab. And just explain for people listening, protein foods are things like meat, fish, eggs, cheese, yogurts, and you've like nuts, seeds, so nut butters, chickpeas, lentils, kidney beans, obviously protein powders, falafels, hummus. So plant-based protein kind of come here as well. So like hummus is a great little quick snack. Or I love little Baby Bell cheese, as I find them so handy as well. I'm on the go. I always have in my bag and work if I'm stuck. I just grab a little Baby Bell. It's just having, rather than having, say, even fruit is brilliant. Okay, fruit's obviously so good for you, and we don't want to demonize it at all. I think people are just ridiculous. But the problem with fruit is if you eat a banana when you're hungry with no protein, your blood sugar's going to crash really quickly. An hour later, you're going to be looking for second starving again. And that's when you might go for a biscuit then. Do you get me? That like even having a piece of
yeah.
fruit, I'd always say trying to have it with a few handful of nuts, a few seeds, dollop of yogurt, a protein shake, something just to balance out the sugars in the fruit. It's going to keep it going a little bit longer.
So we have blood sugar balancing, eating little and often, protein. What else is kind of important then in relation to PCOS?
So that's your healthy fats again, kind of mentioned there. I would say the unsexy answer because everyone talks about it, nutritionists, but it's so important. It's just your fiber, like fiber, fiber, fiber. Gut health is a center of everything. If your gut's not working, your body's not working, right? So even with PCOS, like when we're trying to even reduce carbs, say in the diet, it's all about volume though. So if I said make an omelette for breakfast, you're used to having say 2 eggs and 2 sliced toast for breakfast, and we take away the toast and you're still just having 2 eggs, you're going to be hungry. Like, so why don't we do an omelette? You put in a bit of cheese, you put in some tomatoes, you put in a handful of spinach, you put in some peppers, put in some mustard, whatever you like. Fiber fills us up and it's very, very low in calories. So fiber is really important from, if we're talking about weight loss perspective, also feeding your gut bacteria. And the healthier gut, the better your body is processing your hormones, for example. So it's really, really important that we're getting fiber in. And I think that's been lost as well. I'm sure you've seen it with clients all the time that like macros are just like protein, fat, carbs. And all of a sudden I'm like, yeah, you're hitting your protein goal, but you're not getting any fiber. Like that it's kind of,
Yeah.
that's missed. It's just so important is your fiber. Yeah, especially as well for people with PCOS. And the other thing that can impact people, I'm always kind of very cautious about talking about because not everyone, but if it's impacting you, it really is. It's actually cow's milk in your diet. Okay, not for everyone. But if you're someone listening, and it's very, very Irish, I mentioned this in the last podcast as well. I always say it all starts off like snotty kids. So the reason I say it's Irish is we're also inbred in Ireland. Like we're all like, ev- usually married someone Irish and stuff like that. So this kind of runs in families quite a lot. So snotty kids, so ear, nose, throat, tonsils, chest infections when you're younger. And then you get older, it might be things like you might have eczema, you might have acne, you might have hay fever in your family, you might have psoriasis, you might have heavy periods, and then things like PCOS and high testosterone. Sometimes cow's milk can drive up testosterone further, can make hormonal issues worse. And I see a huge link with this if it is driving them. So let's just put that into perspective of the classic woman starting in the gym, kind of gets this basic kind of PT diet, okay, where it's protein shakes and cottage cheese and 150 grams of Greek yogurt for breakfast and loads and loads of cow's milk in her diet. And the word that you'll often see is like, I feel very inflamed. So people just feel like they're very puffy, their skin is really bad. You know what I mean? They just don't feel healthy, even though they feel like they're doing everything right. This is where, and something like testosterone is high, I might look at cows, like, especially if they have kind of other family history and they might be like, oh, I'm going to die with hay fever. And I've always had heavy periods. And yeah, when younger, I got my tonsils out and I used to have really bad ear infections. And it might sound really irrelevant now, but I guarantee so many women listening now, like, oh my God, that is it, too meat to a T. And I'm lashing the protein shakes in. I just don't feel great in them. So even just simply things like getting on a vegan protein powder, where the fascinating thing around all of this is it's just milk from a cow. So like if you like feta cheese, if you like buffalo mozzarella, if you like goat's cheese, you can even buy things like buffalo yogurt and sheep's milk yogurt and goat's milk yogurt. So it's not even like you're gone vegan and you've handed any dairy products. Like we don't want that either. It's just be mindful of the cow's milk. So that's just something to mention because it can be really, really important for women with PCOS.
Yeah.
To be honest, women with all hormonal issues, like if you're suffering with acne or heavy periods or really bad PMS, I'd always look at cow's milk first, especially if you have that family history.
Interesting. And would cow's milk have a little side note, just more personally that I want to know, if you end up sinusy quite a lot, would like
100%.
sinuses? Yeah. Oh,
Sinuses, yeah,
interesting.
sinuses, hay fever, headaches, any kind of rashes, like, yeah, definitely, 100%.
And is it really an all or nothing thing, or can you like cut back? You know what I mean? Could you be like, instead of having a cow's milk latte, I'll have an oat milk latte? Like, can you do that? And then be like, but I'll still have my, I don't know, I'd still have my Greek yogurt. No?
It kind of depends on the person and how much it's impacting you, right? But the way I describe it is, let's say cow's milk's lighting a fire, okay? It doesn't matter if you have a pint of milk with dinner or a drop of milk in your cup of tea, you're still putting a coal on that fire. Or like in a explain times, if I hand you a box of matches, you can light a fire whether you use a whole box of matches or one match, right? So
Yeah.
sometimes it might be like, even people say like, I don't have that much dairy, but they 5 cups of tea with a drop of milk. They're like, I just changed the color, right? But if you imagine again, the fire analogy, every 3 hours that day, they're walking over and putting a coal on the fire. So technically that inflammation is there all the time. Now, for certain people, reducing it can really help and they kind of get away with it. And they're like, yeah, I have to feel so much better. And they can have it the odd time and have a bit of cheese here and there and have a drop of milk in their cup of tea. And like that, they just don't have the milk coffees anymore or like the protein powder anymore. But is it always going to be a factor? My perspective is that what's actually you're reacting to is the protein. It's called casein, right, in the milk. If you think about celiac disease, what celiac is, people reacting to the gluten, which is the protein in the grain, right? So I actually think give this another, I don't know, 10 years, let's see what research does. I bet you we will see casein the same way as you see gluten. That like you wouldn't tell a celiac, I'll just have the odd time, fine.
Yeah.
Do you know what I mean? That if that fire gets lit, the fire is going to be lit. So I actually say, if someone's like, oh my God, I feel so much better off that, like I really do. Generally, that's just, again, it's genetics. Usually that's just how their body is built. And normally then if they have cases, like might be like, oh God, I woke me like that house will drip again. Or I have really bad headache again. Like they notice symptoms really quickly. Like, oh, my skin's after breaking out so good for so long. So normally when people go off it, if they're really reacting to it and then they choose back in, they'll notice it bigger. They feel crap going back onto it because you kind of felt like low level of crap probably all the time without realizing it. Do you know what I mean? So it's a tricky one. It is definitely a tricky one. But what again, it's got to do with the protein in the milk and the structure of sheep, goats, and buffalo milk is different. So it doesn't have the same impact on inflammation.
Interesting. Interesting. Because it's definitely like I would hear it a lot that, like, for example, yeah, like whey protein not agreeing with clients, or yeah, just I don't feel great after, like after dairy in general, but like that it's never been like diagnosed as anything, but it happens more often than not. And then I was kind of looking at my own diet a little bit, and now like I don't think I'm particularly intolerant, to be fair, but I consume an awful lot of dairy. Like, and I would have like for breakfast, I would have like whey protein and I would have Greek yogurt, like in my like protein Weetabix or whatever I'm having, and I would have like a yogurt throughout the day or whatever, or I'd have cheese with my whatever, like with my salad or whatever. And I would have like, yeah, like I'd have my couple of skinny lattes every day
I'd
too.
say you're okay then. Like, if you were having that much cows milk and it was impacting you, I'd be saying your periods are having really, really heavy. You could be experiencing
Yeah.
that can be really painful PMS. Like, if that's quite a lot of cow's milk for someone if they're reacting to it. So the fact you're
Yeah.
able to have that much and you're not really having symptoms, I'd say probably not. It's really important as well for kids. So obviously, like I don't work with kids, my mom does in our clinic. And kids who've like chronic ear infection, tonsils, ear, nose, and throat, runny noses, chest infections, look at their cow's milk, especially if you're, as a parent, someone who suffers with hay fever or the dad has psoriasis or that real kind of high allergy kind of family. Oftentimes the children, just tweaking their diet can make an unbelievable difference. Because kids as well, like they just consume so much with cereal and yogurt, cheese, and it just consumes so much of the kids' diet. So just to mention that, because this can make such a difference to someone if they're listening and like, oh my God, that's my child. Again, we're not going off dairy, we're just going off cow's milk. So you can buy sheep's milk yogurt, you can buy buffalo yogurt, you can still get cheese, you can still get calcium's important. We're not demonizing dairy at all. It's
Yeah.
just that of cow's milk sometimes can impact people.
Well, that's so interesting that you say that, like, about kids. And it is something that we really need to think about as parents. But like one thing I've actually noticed as a parent, like my kids are getting a little bit older now. Like, and it's funny, my oldest lad would have psoriasis. Like my husband has psoriasis, and he doesn't really like dairy products. I think sometimes kids naturally, if you don't force feed your kids, he's just not that into it. Like, my sister would have always suffered with ear infections as a child. And it actually, when she ended up then as a child getting diagnosed with a milk allergy. So it just shows, doesn't it? And now, like as an adult, like she's okay. I think she kind of, I don't know if maybe you're like, you can't grow out of it, but it ended up not like she can take milk, yogurt, cheese now. She doesn't naturally go for it, like she could have pizza with cheese on it, it'd be fine, she could have a cup of tea with milk in it, but, like, she would take or leave it, whereas I'm like, I would rather give up meat than give up cheese. I'm a
I think
dairy one.
a lot of people say like that. I hear that all the time that like, oh, I had this as a child and like kind of grew out of it. But as a child, it could have been a different symptom like that. You were sick all the time, tonsils. But now as an adult, you might have really painful periods. You might flood, you might have really heavy periods. You might have a rash or acne, it's not going away. You're never ever going to realize that could be linked with cow's milk. So sometimes it
Yeah.
just manifests something different and we just don't realize. Do you know what I
Yeah,
mean?
especially when we hit puberty and then, suddenly it's all yeah, it's not to do with diet, it's to do with hormones, but even though that is to do with diet, but yeah, it all gets mixed up, doesn't it?
So yeah, so the cow's milk, the protein, the blood sugar balancing, green vegetables. And again, such an unsexy answer. You have to get your greens in this cruciferous vegetables like broccoli, cauliflower, kale, cabbage. What we're trying to do here is support your liver. Now, your liver's always detox, and I hate even using that word, but just these pathways for your body to break down hormones is so important. Your body's going to do it anyway, right? Even if you never eat a green vegetable again, but we can also help it do that by eating things like cruciferous vegetables. So they're really important. Like if someone comes to me and they've really bad acne, really high testosterone, they're like, yeah, I eat broccoli on a Sunday with my roast and that's it. Like you cannot, like I would say, imagine your greens like the bus that collects your hormones, right? So if your hormones are too high and you green vegetables once a week, how can you expect your hormones to be broken down properly? Do you get me? So it's kind of just being realistic about what you're doing as well. So obviously then things like white carbs are also quite important to try and reduce because white carbs are going to spike your insulin even more. So even if someone's completely overwhelmed and like, oh my God, this is so much information, where am I meant to start? I'd say get protein, especially in the mornings, right? So have something for breakfast, even just Google high protein breakfast, that, potentially not calories, like spending on what we are just talking about. And then get your fiber in and make sure, get rid of white carbs. If you're eating white bread, white pasta, potatoes are different. Potatoes are whole food. But like just white carbs, white wraps, white bagels, like switch to whole grain. That's completely different. The brain fiber in that will stop the insulin spike as much as, not as high as eating just kind of white carbs on its own, basically.
It's one fairly easy swap, and for me, it was really hard initially when making that swap from, like, white pasta to brown pasta, 'cause, like, brown pasta's not the same. If you're having it in a meal with a lovely sauce, it doesn't make any difference.
Yeah. Or even go half and half. Like, you know what I mean? Do half your brown pasta, half your white pasta. That's still making an effort. It's all about the little things that it's achievable. Don't be sitting there gagging, hating your brown pasta if you can't keep it up. So, if you're like, okay, well, I can have half my white and half my brown, I still enjoy my meal. And then and you're being consistent. That's even better than trying to force feed yourself something that you're not mad about, you know?
Yeah, true. True. There's so much proactive stuff there. It's like, anyone who's listening is feeling a little bit lost, feeling that there are specific things, and that it doesn't have to be I have to go on a low carb diet, because I think when it's something so extreme, it's already difficult enough to make these changes than have to be like, oh, I can never eat pasta again. I can never, have carbohydrates again unless I want to be suffering. Whereas it's like you've literally just right include this, do this, do so it's about adding in much more so than taking away. I just wanted to interrupt the podcast for a moment to talk to you a little bit about Kate Hamilton Health online coaching. So we have two coaching options available. We have our elite coaching and we have our group coaching service. Our elite coaching service is bespoke, individualized coaching, which will help you to finally break free from diet culture with one-to-one anytime support from your coach and with access to a safe, supportive community. This is a higher ticket coaching option, and the coaching is by application only. If you go to my website, katehamiltonhealth.com, you will be able to apply for elite coaching through there, and we will be in touch to organize a call and to get you up and running. In relation to our group coaching starts on the first Monday of every month. When it's full each month, we do close the doors. With the group coaching is about building the habits, body and energy of the healthiest version of yourself and finally make it stick. We include personalised calories and portions, food lists, recipes, meal plan ideas, step goals, home or gym-based workouts, depending on what you want, changed every 8 weeks, mindset work, app access. So that's the Kate Hamilton Health app, which will be your hub for everything. Weekly yoga classes, WhatsApp group community, weekly group Q&A with myself, fun challenges, daily habits form, weekly self check-in, fortnightly check-ins with your coach, a library full of lifestyle guides, a library full of lessons, seminars, and all of this is updated regularly. We have weekly group Zoom calls with myself and the team, regular guest seminars where we get experts on to talk more to you about different topics that we need experts on for. And then we have in-person events twice a year that you will get at a major discount as being a member of the Kate Hamilton Health community. So, as I said, this starts the first Monday of every month. If you go to my website, katehamiltonhealth.com, you will see when the next group coaching intake is starting for you. So we close the doors as soon as that intake is full or the Monday before the group coaching starts. So usually that last Monday of the previous month. So if you head over to katehamiltonhealth.com, all of that information that I've talked through is on the website. You'll be able to book your spot for the next intake there. And I will chat to you all then.
And be mindful of your carbs. I can feel like, imagine you having porridge at breakfast, even if it is brain, imagine having your porridge at breakfast, a brain wrap at lunchtime, and then pasta for dinner. There is high carb, 3 main meals a day where you could have smoothie for breakfast or an omelette for breakfast, a huge big salad or leftover stir fry with loads of veggies in it, something like that, or something else that's lower in carb, and then have your bowl of pasta at dinner. You know what I mean? Instead of having 3 massive carb meals a day, you're having one. So it just makes it a little bit more easy to process. You know?
Yeah, and to remember all those veggies that we're eating for our good health are carbohydrates as well. I think people forget as well that, a lot of our carbohydrates, if we're eating, a lot of varied fruit and veg, you're getting a lot of carbohydrates from your fruit and vegetables as well. So they also count. So what about endometriosis? Because I know we mentioned this briefly in the last episode.
Endometriosis is an inflammatory condition. Hormones drive it. Hormones aren't necessarily like the root cause. We actually don't really know what is the main driver. Why do women have endometriosis? I'm very, very interested in endometriosis. Probably someone I'd say every day in my clinic with endo now. But it's an area that's still being widely studied. So it is a hormonal condition, but I wouldn't put it in the same category as like PCOS and painful periods. Like it's kind of slightly different that like I actually would consider endometriosis almost like a genetic condition again, like an autoimmune condition. So usually, again, it runs in families that like, I think our generation kind of get a bit screwed over because our moms certainly weren't talking about their periods, let alone our grannies. Like, so a lot of women takes approximately 9 years to be diagnosed with endometriosis in Ireland. Because pain gets ignored. You go into your doctor, oh, go on a pill. Oh, take some Ponson, which high Nurofen. And it's just kind of one of these things like, oh, just put up with period pain. So, the only way to really get diagnosed with it is to go in and actually get like investigative surgery. It's called laparoscopy. It's going to actually look and see if it's there. So it's very invasive. Not invasive, but it's like you're not going to get a blood test to diagnose. It's kind of one of those things you have to go in and be put in the system, and the surgery is the last step. So basically, in a inflammatory condition caused by, I would say, autoimmune, gut health is really important. Like if we're kind of looking at the research of endo, they're finding that women have more imbalanced gut bacteria with endometriosis. And what that would mean is like that affects their immune response and how their body copes with inflammation and pain and all that kind of thing. So when I see clients with endo, we really focus on gut health and supporting that as best as possible. And then we have to focus on hormones because a hormone called estrogen, okay? So estrogen, I would say, makes it happy and horny, which is what we want, or estrogen causes happy periods, sore boobs, and that kind of thing. And with endometriosis, so interesting around the tissue is this it's tissue that's growing in the wrong place. So normally, if you think about your period tissue is on the uterine lining. And that tissue responds to estrogen, which makes our period grow. And then when our hormones drop, when progesterone drops, you get your period. That tissue comes out through your period. It comes out obviously through the vagina. Whereas if that tissue is growing on the fallopian tube, in the uterine wall, in the ovary, it responds to estrogen the same way, but then it can't go anywhere. And then things like cysts start to form, which obviously can become really, really painful. So the interesting thing with endometriosis, it's the same tissue as our period. So diet can hugely, the charisma we just spoke about there, like I'd always look at charisma for my clients with endometriosis, supporting gut health, especially things like constipation. Like if you're someone who's constipated, and this is really tricky because it often goes hand in hand. Like the amount of women I would see who've just been misdiagnosed with IBS, told for years, oh, you've IBS, it actually was just endo. Constipation means your body's not eliminating estrogen as efficiently. So it's the number one thing. Like when I see clients with painful periods, heavy periods, endometriosis, they're actually kind of any hormonal issue. I'm like, we need to get you pooing straight away. So digestive issues often go hand in hand. So supporting breaking down estrogen, supporting digestion is super important for endo. But it can be really hard. Like I think I have a whole podcast on endo, like it's literally an hour podcast, but it can impact women's lives so much because it can really cause so much pain. Like, and the pain can be like we're obviously maybe getting a bit of pain around our period, but this can be any time of the month. It can affect their bowels. It can affect their mood. It can affect their immune system. Like, it's a really tough condition to have.
And it's not easy. Like obviously not, as you've just said, not easy to get diagnosed. When you are diagnosed, is there a solution? Like, can you become pain free relatively quickly when you know what you're dealing with, or is this a really tough, long slog to tackle?
To be honest, my frustration with endometriosis, there's very little what's it, integrative medicine, I would say. So like in Ireland, you go in, you get your surgery, they remove the tissue. For some women, that is literally like night and day and we feel amazing and the pain is gone and that's brilliant and fabulous. But certain people, they might not be able to get all the tissue. So some of the pain might be gone, but maybe other pain is still there. What frustrates me is there's no follow-on advice. So like they don't look at diet, they don't look at supplements, they don't look at estrogen levels, they don't look at bloods, they don't look at how your body's functioning. And to me, that's even more important. I'm like, what? Like we've so much research on estrogen. We've so much research on inflammation in the body. Like, why is that for someone who's it's a disease. Like, it is a disease, like it's such a severe disease. Why is there no complementary medicine that, okay, I'm so pro surgery. I'm like, let's get the surgery. Let's get rid of the tissue. That's something I'll never be able to do with herbs or with diet. Like, I can't remove someone's earlobe by giving them herbal medicine. So thank God we have the medicine and or the surgery and I'm so pro surgery. But then follow on advice just falls down. And what you're going to see is women might feel fine after surgery for a few years and then it's 3, 4 years later, the tissue's growing back, they're back in for another surgery, the pain's coming back again. So I think lifestyle is so, so important when we're talking about endometriosis alongside the medical field as well.
Yeah. And I suppose that's the case really for most things, isn't it? And it's the one area that frustrates me in like medical situations for no matter what diagnosis we're talking about, whether it's hormone related, whether it's in different area of health, is I understand that it's so important to seek medical help for different things, but then it's like here's a pill or here's here's a surgery, this will fix it, and then it's like there's no changes made in the lifestyle side of things, and then it recurs and it becomes chronic when it's like, yes, it's fantastic that we have access to medication that can help us get better. Like if I use my mental health, for example, I suffered from really bad chronic anxiety for years in my early 20s, and I needed medication. I couldn't get to the level of clarity to be able to work on what needed to be worked on. and like, not to go down a rabbit hole, but in relation to like, weight loss drugs, for example, they are a reality in our society if we use it at the minute. And I know I'm going on a tangent, I'm going to bring it back around, I promise. But, they are a reality and they have their place. If someone's food noise is so bad that they cannot get the same starting point as everyone else for their health, they play a part alongside the lifestyle stuff, but it's not instead of, you know what I mean? And that's what's important with any type of medication, any type of medical intervention. And I do think it's what's missing in our system, that it's like, even like my poor mum, she's having loads of issues with her digestive system at the minute. She hasn't once been referred to a dietitian. You know what I mean? Like, and yeah, to help figure out what's going on and like what's triggering it and what can we focus on. So I just like, I'm so glad that you say that like, medical intervention is so important, and it can be really dangerous if we're anti doctors and anti medicine, because it's really, really important. Like, you don't want to end up make like things getting really bad inside you because you haven't gone to the doctor because you think the doctors don't know anything. The doctors do know things and we need to go to them. But it's the attitude that, and it's not our fault, I think, as a society. It probably is a bit kind of, we're being driven by big pharma and take these pills and do this. And, there's a lot of that. But it's getting that balance and being like, we have to also take ownership for our lifestyle. And if we need help for it, we need to advocate for ourselves and look for help with the lifestyle side, because it is the magic key to freedom from it all.
Yeah. I think it's important to understand like your GP is not a dietitian, he's not a nutritionist. Like they don't have that qualifications. You can't expect them. You can't go into them being like, I have high testosterone, but I don't want my formula, I don't want the pill. Like, what else can I do? They're not going to be like, okay, well, you need to eat 2.5 grams protein, blah, blah. They don't know that. So we can't expect them to, you can't be annoyed then when you come out being like, all you offer me was drugs. Do you know what I mean? So you have to know their limitations, but also they need to know their limitations. And I find sometimes it's this resistance, it's this kind of like us versus them. And I'm like, hold on a minute, we're all in the same. We just want to help people. That's what I
Yeah.
presume you want to do. That's what I want to do. That's what the doctor wants to do. Like we're all singing from the same hymn sheet here. It's just a different song that we're singing, right? So I think being respectful of each other's areas of expertise. Like I would never say to someone, don't take that. But let's even go back to PCOS, for example. You walk in, you've no cycle, your acne is really bad, and I have clients tell the pill fix it. And it does, but it doesn't actually fix it. It just switches off your hormones,
It
right?
masks it. Yeah.
It
Yeah. Yeah.
masks. Or I have clients come to me and they don't realize that women in literally their 30s put on the pill at 17 for irregular cycles. Now they want to get pregnant. They're like, oh no, my cycle used to be irregular, but now it's regular with the pill. And I'm like, the pill's not a real period. It's just a pill bleed. You're not actually ovulating. That you think that it's regular, but actually you haven't ovulated for 15 years. That isn't explained to people. So it's having the understanding of why, when you take a drug, how is it working? How is it benefiting me? What are the side effects? What else is driving it? What else do I need to focus on? So with endometriosis, for example, like the marina coil can be brilliant in this scenario as well, because marina coil can stop you having a bleed every month. Like, some women have a great 10 days of the month and then they're absolutely crippled the week before their period, the week of their period. And that's half their month. And it's really difficult to make lifestyle changes when we're just so depleted. So I'm very pro marina coil for things like endometriosis, because then all of a sudden you can really focus on getting yourself well, focusing on diet, doing a bit of exercise, taking your supplements. Like I have clients who can't even go to work when they've endometriosis, let alone getting up and taking their vitamins or go for a walk and meal prep. And like, you have to be realistic as well. So in certain situations, thank God we have medicine, but out of all the things I'd see, endometriosis frustrates me because I have seen women just get on amazing with lifestyle changes within a couple of weeks. Like it can just make such a big difference in their life. I'm not saying that it will never cure it, but it can just be the difference between night and day for some women. And the fact that that's not the standard for every single person that's seen when they go through the system and get surgery just absolutely baffles me.
And can you imagine, like, if we had a healthcare system where, if you went to your GP and there was this like disciplinary system where it's like, okay, yes, we think that you possibly have endometriosis, and then, if it might be like the specialists have like big long waiting lists, but in the meantime, someone to help you with your lifestyle, and, like yourself, like myself, where there's so many different areas that can support. And I know, like our generation, we have access to it because we're on social media. We, like the information is out there, and it's so great to see so many women being really proactive with their health. And especially like menopause, for example, being such a huge like it's so out in the open now compared to like 10 years ago. It really wasn't. Like, so that's so amazing to see that we have access to this information. We're educating ourselves, we're advocating for ourselves, and it just makes me so happy to see these changes being made. Then if I look at like my parents' generation, like the only people that they'll actually take advice from is the GP and RTE. It has to be the GP or the RTE. And like, so I try and give them advice about something, and they'd be like, "No, no, Kate, no, you don't know, no." And I was talking to them about resistance training for a long time, and they were like, "Yeah, yeah, yeah, whatever." They heard it on RTE. They're both resistance training now, but it's not because of me.
It's no fun. Yeah, yeah. I definitely our generation can definitely question things a little bit more. And it'd be interesting to see the next generation because I feel like I would say like our generation were very much the guinea pigs. Like we were put on the pill for 15 years, and I feel like we're also the ones that are struggling with fertility, maybe more so than any other generation
Yeah,
potentially. I don't think our kids will have the same thing. Like I think we'll be more hyper aware of you putting on your teenage daughter on the pill for 15 years. Do you know what I mean? We were already told. Like our parents didn't do that. So it'd be interesting to see the next generation and what that looks like in terms of hormones and fertility and female wellness and like when we're more educated on it. 'Cause I think about it, they just didn't know these things well. They just didn't know. We grew up in Catholic Ireland. Things were so like you know what I mean, controlled and like our poor parents didn't it was the priest, 40 and your doctor really.
yeah,
Like
yeah. But I even remember that my own childhood, like access to information. You're probably not quite as old as I am, but like I remember, like all the information we got was from magazines or what
right.
we were watching on
Do you remember your
TV, and
magazines?
the
Yeah.
minimum amount of channels you had on, like, we'd like
Yeah.
9 channels on our TV, and
Yeah.
it was like, yeah, I'd, like, get my pocket money at the weekend, I go and buy, like, whatever the
We're
teen
amazing.
magazine was.
Yeah, yeah, definitely 100%. Like that's where we got all of our information from.
Okay, let's actually talk about what you do with in your clinic around herbal medicine. What herbs do you work with? What do you treat? What different conditions, I presume it's what we've been talking about, for example, that you treat, and I suppose just tell us a little bit about this world.
His world. So it is a bit random. Like I know people look at me and like, you look like a herbalist, right? But I just love the science behind it. I love how things work. So my brain is very much like biology, science. I again love that side of things. But as a herbalist, we trained in like traditional Chinese medicines. It makes no sense in terms of science. We look at things like the tongue, for example. Like your tongue tells me so much about what's going on inside your body. Now, take it with a pinch of salt. I'm not going to be like, no, sorry, Kate, your tongue says XYZ. And you're like, I actually want to say them. So it's just an extra tool for us to be like, okay, this potentially is what's going on inside your body from a herb medicine perspective. Each herb has kind of different unique properties. Okay. They're called herbal actions. So some herbs are great for supporting digestion. Some herbs are nervines, which help calm the nervous system. Some herbs are nourishing the blood and energy. Some herbs are for adrenal support. They all have different actions. And in our clinic, we stock 300 different herbal tonics. Okay. So
Wow.
ones you're going to know things, for example, lavender, chamomile, peppermint, nettle, oats, passion flower, lemon balm, like there's one's thyme, like there's herbs that we use all the time in kind of cooking, like we've rosemary in there, like and they all have different kind of properties. So we kind of have those ones, but then we use Chinese herbs as well, which you probably wouldn't know of. So you probably heard of like ashwagandha before. That's probably one, or ginseng, or what other ones might you know? Vitex, Agnes castor. So that's another one that people into hormones might have of chasteberry. Like there's certain herbs people might know. So we stock 300 of them. Okay. And when we see clients, we literally put you in a bottle. So you kind of said there, like I know we talked about endometriosis and PCOS. To be honest, herbals can literally treat any condition. Actually, when you say treat, I say support. We never say we're treating something. We're supporting the system. Anything. If you name anything, there's a herb for it. Absolutely. And my belief, like when I studied herb medicine, there's so much like we do, like there's chemistry in it. So looking at like the structures of them and things like that. Like I'm just like nature is giving us everything that we need. There's herbs we call Schedule 3 herbs that we actually don't stock. I don't stock in my clinic, but their herbs are poisonous herbs, for example. There's herbs, but to me, again, that's like, again, nature is giving us everything that we need. Like when you look at there's nothing that doesn't exist in herb medicine that can like, do different things in the body. It's just so interesting that I'm like, the university, the nature has provided what we need. So let's say my personal tonic. I have something in my herbs. What's my most recent tonic? Energy, low iron, stress, decreasing progesterone for hormones, and liver support. What else is in that one? Bloating, I think, is my most recent tonic. So depending on your symptoms, we literally put like you in a bottle. Do you know what I mean? And everyone is so different. That's why the tongue is so important. Some people come into me And even someone talking out, they can look in the mirror when you're in the car, you're wherever you're listening to it. Some people I see have a really like swollen tongue. It looks like they have little ridges on the edge of their tongue. It's actually the teeth marks. Their tongue is swollen and they have their teeth is resting on their tongue. And this can often be like a lot of digestive issues, a lot of bloating, a lot of constipation. Some people I see, their tongue is really, really red. It feels very dry. It might feel like, oh, my tongue feels like it's on fire. So those two tonics be completely different. People need completely different herbs. Some people I see their tongue being really, really wet as well. Like it's kind of got slimy. Some people have a big yellow coating at the back of their tongue, which kind of indicates infection. So when you're sick, you might find your tongue is really swollen with kind of a yellow coating on it, for example. So we give specific herbs for that, right? So the tonics look like that, just to show you. So I'm talking to you. So
Oh,
in that
lovely. Yeah.
bottle, you might put maybe 10 different herbs, all for different things. So I just love the herbs because they're literally you in a bottle. Like you can go in and buy a multivitamin, you can take an iron supplement, whatever it is, so can everyone else. But the herbs have never been made up for anyone else the same way. And they're based on a consultation, they're based on your symptoms, they're based on your tongue, they're based on your blood test. So they're very, very personal. So I love using them alongside nutrition and supplements. They're not for everyone, but for certain people, they can be absolutely amazing. They're great for things like if you're someone who chronically has like UTIs, sinuses, unbelievable herbs, and tastes horrible for sinuses, but they are amazing. Chronic infections, like immune system issues that you just can't get over yourself, and you're constantly an antibiotic after antibiotic for. This is where herbs can be absolutely brilliant because we have like natural, like I mentioned thyme a few minutes ago. You probably know echinacea as well. It's another one a lot of people would know. We've herbs that act like they're like natural antibiotics in terms of they kill bacterial infections. And it's one of these things, if you can get over an infection once yourself without having to go and get an antibiotic, that will stand to you so much. And so for people that have chronic illnesses, especially things like more like immune system, I'm not talking about like Crohn's disease or like, really severe autoimmune conditions, but just general day to day, you feel like you're always sick. Herbs can be absolutely brilliant because they're so specific at targeting like specific illnesses and infections.
So if I was to come to your clinic, okay, and be like just out of curiosity, if I was to come to your clinic, and there's nothing particularly wrong with me. Now there probably is. There's probably loads wrong with me. God love me, but there's nothing like life changingly wrong with me at the minute. And I come to your clinic just out of curiosity to like would and I came and was like, "Ashling, I really do want to optimize my health, and I just would love to just, see what you think. I haven't had bloods done in a while," or like, so I come to your clinic, we have an initial consultation. What does the process look like then after that?
I mean, in someone be like, I'm actually grand, I just want to know what can I do just to make myself as healthy as possible. I actually would always recommend bloods because I'm a big advocate for blood should be optimal, for definitely not just balancing within range. Like doctors are trained to flag disease. So like, or deficiencies. So for example, if you're low in iron, you're anemic, right? The range for iron goes from 5 to 30. So the optimal range would be between 20 and 30. So if you were told, oh yeah, your iron is fine and it's 11, and you're like, oh, I'm actually second mark, that doesn't make any sense. So that's something to think about. Like with bloods, number one, making sure everything is on the optimal range. Um, so get bloods done, obviously look at diet. Supplements, I think there's been so much, like my concept of supplements, there's like so much, I don't know, focus on supplements at the moment. And as you know, probably who work with clients, like people are like, I'm taking, so for example, I see clients taking magnesium for anxiety and stress, right? They're having 3 coffees a day. Like the irony of like spending money on daily supplements and completely like they're skipping meals, their blood sugars all over the place, their stress is through the roof, they're not sleeping, 3 coffees a day, and then they're taking supplements for anxiety. Like it's just so ironic. So I think supplements are great, but sometimes they kind of give people that like, feel like they're doing something when they don't actually stress the elephant in the room, which is what they're actually eating and what they're doing. So I do love supplements, but they're very individual based. Like I wouldn't be giving people 20 supplements. It's all very much on what you need. And then the herbs, I mean, if you're just like, I just want to feel better, I probably wouldn't be giving you a tonic. If you're like, I'm doing great, but I just feel so stressed, I just need something to support my nervous system. Like I have a lot of herbs in my tonic for adrenal stress because I'm always just so busy.
Yeah, like that would be me. Like I am constantly, even when I'm like not busy anymore or I'm not stressed anymore, it's like my nervous system hasn't caught up with myself and I'm just like tense. And I find myself rushing when I don't need to be rushing. I'm just like, and I have to like, and I do a lot of yoga. Like I'm really trying to get into a little bit of breath work as well to try and let my nervous system catch up. But yeah, like so
Then
stuff
I
like
find
that.
it amazing stuff. Or even me, and it's funny because like I'm obviously a nutritionist and I know what I'm talking about. Like if I don't take my herbs, my period is always really short. It might come like 24-day cycle, which means it's from stress, it's lack of progesterone. So the herbs allow kind of like pick up the slack just because I'm just on the go. Like, to be honest, like super busy, like poor progesterone's being depleted by stress, and the herbs pick up the slack, which isn't ideal because really I should be addressing the lifestyle factors. But this moment in my life, I have to just do what I have to do. There's no wiggle room. So I have to just be able to function at the capacity I'm functioning at. And thank God I have herbs to pick up the slack. Do you get me? So
And sometimes it's like we address the issue and we change the lifestyle and we're like, oh no, I really am focusing on slowing down and stress. But it can like it's like a delayed reaction, I find, that like the body feels it after you've consciously
yeah, you're
slowed
so
down.
used. Yeah, you're so used to kind of
Yeah.
rolling up on them. Yeah. This moment, I can feel like, and a lot of people I see, they're just like a girl last week and she has to work shift work. And she's like, I'm saving for a wedding, I'm saving for a mortgage, I've no other option. So I was like, okay, so this, and like she's so tired, she's so wrecked. But I was like, this is a situation that you're in. What can I do then to support your adrenals? Because you can't quit your job. So let's see what we can do. And like a lot of like nervine herbs, adrenal support herbs for magnesium. So it's kind of just damage control until you can change the lifestyle thing that's
Yeah.
causing the problem. Because not everyone can
And
just,
it's
yeah,
proactive, isn't it? Like, and it's kind of like if you feel like you're focusing on what you can manage, and then that will lead to the next thing when you're ready, and it takes away the overwhelm and the feeling of powerlessness, I suppose.
yeah. And I think as well as moms, like I'm like, for me, I'm like, thank God I have my herbs. Cause I'm like, even if I do nothing else, take my tonic today, it just gives that I definitely feel it now. Obviously, I'm such a big believer in herb medicine, but I do feel such a difference that it just gives me a bit of nourishment, helps my adrenals. Like, even if your whole, the rest of your day just goes out the window, I'm like, okay, thank God I have my herbs there. Do you know what I mean? So yeah, I find them amazing. And it's such a missing piece, like in terms of like the Western world that we live in now, it's just such a forgotten way of living. Like Chinese medicine is obviously huge in like, in Asia, like it's one of the one of the main uses, not the main medical use, but it's used way more there. Where in Ireland, it's like, oh, this herbalist. And my mom left her job. Like I left the first podcast. She left her job as a midwife and a nurse in 1994 and set up her herbal medicine clinic. And she 4 kids at home. Now me looking back, I'm like, oh my God, that's insane. Like letting them now me talk about herbal medicine. Imagine her, what, 30 years ago talking about it. People are probably like, oh my God, Roisin up the road's gone absolutely mental. Like her there,
I
all her
love it.
herbs. But she was such a big believer in them and she's had her clinic, she's still working now. Like, and that was again 34 years ago, maybe 1 years ago. So she never like I feel like she did so well because they just work so well that like, people who get on well with herbs will tell somebody you try this tonic and she's always had a steady stream of business because she just
Does it
believes in
work?
them. Yeah, because it works. Yeah. And I feel like we get on so well with our clients because we're looking at it from a real science perspective. Like I want to know the blood, what's going on in your body. And then looking at it from a completely different perspective in Chinese medicine. And for the people who medicine can't hit the nail on the head. So you come in like, got these bloods done. I don't know what's going on. I just feel really off. Herbs can be brilliant because we look at it from a different perspective. Again, your tongue can tell us a lot. Even like you can look at, and my mom does this more than I would, like feel people's pulse. And Chinese medicine, pulse is really important as well. And that can kind of give an idea of what herbs you need. So sometimes when medicine makes no sense, herbs can really step in and nourish your body in a different way.
I'm actually really intrigued. I'm like, I
Nice,
might
guys. Fun.
see how far you gals are booked up, and I might make an appointment and just come in. Like, right, tell me what needs to be fixed. But Aisling, thank you so much. This has been so lovely to read. I like, and I really think we hit the nail on the head here. We got really specific. There's so much value in this conversation. Thank you so much. Is there any thing that you would like to put out there to draw people towards? Is the website the best place, like you were saying last
Yeah, I
time?
suppose our online booking. Yeah, so AK Nutrition is our website, and I have brilliant practitioners. So I'm booked up a little bit at the moment. Usually booked up like 3 months at a time, but we have amazing. Like I have such a good team of practitioners here. So we have a gut health clinic as well. So like we have an amazing practitioner there who specialises in things like H. pylori and SIBO and digestive issues and celiac and ulcerative colitis, like really like chronic gut issues. And like she does a lot of gut testing. So that's just an area that I'm interested in anymore. Like I love like my fertility and that sort of thing. So she's amazing. If someone's listening and like we could go into a whole gut health consultation and we haven't hit the nail on the head with that, definitely book them in with Claire. But yeah, going onto our website, you can obviously pop me an email and you leave my email there in the show notes. And you might see some and maybe try some herbs.
Yeah.
Get on time. You could do the herbs and
Thank
we'll do follow up in a couple of times. You were like, Kate, I've done the herbs now for 3 months. How are you feeling?
Yeah, definitely. Yeah, but like a Dave, my husband will think I've lost the plot. He'd be like, "What in God's name is in this bottle?"
Yeah.
But yeah, thanks so much for this. This has been amazing.
Yeah. Thank you so much for having me again. It's so good chatting.
I just want to say thank you so much for listening to the podcast, and I would just ask for one thing from you, if at all possible, could you make sure that you subscribe to the podcast? It really does make such a difference If there's a particular episode that you've enjoyed, please do share it in your WhatsApp groups, share it on your stories, tag myself and the guest in your stories. All of these things really do help to grow the podcast. And obviously, if there's anything you'd like to reflect on, please do leave a comment. It would mean the world to me. And I will see you on the next one.